So I've had a few days now with the open facial interface for the Quest 3. I figure it's long enough to give a full review, given the fact that it is just an interface, just a replacement piece of plastic. So far, I've enjoyed it a lot. I've found it to be really valuable in terms of doing pass-through mode most of the time. The way it compresses towards the front is kind of useful, but honestly, I think they could have shortened. Again, that's probably is very dependent on your face shape. They could have shortened these ridges on the side. They tend to keep the edges a little bit further away than I would have preferred. If I shortened them by like maybe 3 or 4 centimeters, like that might end up being a better use. And I could take it apart and maybe glue it back together or shorten that. I think the modding community could probably come out with a decently 3D printed alternative that would also be helpful for this. In terms of using it around, I had noticed no problems with like light seepage or anything. Most of the time, I'm trying to use it in brighter environments anyway. Honestly, it was almost more annoying using it in darker environments because I could see around, but I couldn't see through the camera because the light didn't pass through nearly as much during pass-through mode with the camera, and that I wasn't crazy about. I also did end up using both face pads. I used the thicker one and the thinner one, which it comes installed with, and honestly, I liked the thinner one better. I just tend to prefer it to be a little bit closer. When I used the thicker pad, I had a smaller field of view, and I think anytime the field of view can be larger, it tends to be a little bit better of an experience. And if you do think about it from a weight distribution standpoint, then most of the weight being closer to your head is better. That is really my preference. I think the thing is, for the most part, I'm using this virtual reality headset as I would imagine I would use a pair of augmented reality glasses. So my goal isn't a VR interface, my goal is an AR interface. Honestly, I just wish it were a pair of glasses. That would be great. Now, many people were wondering if this was compatible with other headbands, and I think the answer is yes, it can be used with any band. A lot of people mentioned the Halo strap or any of the fixed straps where you kind of clamp it to your head. I think it's totally fine. You can use it with that. I think half of the reason you clamp it to your head is so you don't have to use a full interface like this if you're trying to do pass-through mode. Some people use the Halo strap and they completely remove the facial interface. I think I would really like that. And someone else mentioned there are ones that you can flip up. I think that's super cool. Again, another reason why I think the arms could just be better off removed completely from the device or foldable. I still might do that. Stick around. I might actually just remove the arms completely and try and use it with a band. Again, I really wish I could just strap this entire thing and compact it as much as possible. The device itself is pretty small. It's the facial interface and the arms that take up a lot of space. I have no desire to add a strap that increases the size of that. To me, I want it to be as small as possible. It fits in this bag for me. I use this bag, and then all I do is just tuck this in between the lenses, and I literally throw the controllers right into it, and I tuck the whole thing in. Some other people mentioned really have to be careful about avoiding direct sunlight because the lenses can actually refract the sunlight and burn out your screens inside and a bunch of the other internals. I think that is rather unlikely to happen immediately, but yeah, it's just like cooking an ant with a magnifying glass. You want to avoid doing something that is going to cause a lot of sunlight to filter through. I haven't really run into situations where that's going to be a problem. Just a note, this is using fabric pads, so they aren't the silicone pads. And I do remember seeing, I think on Meta's website, they mentioned that the normal face pads are not directly compatible with the pass-through one. And I find that the pass-through face mask looks just ever so slightly different. It seems like they reduced a lot of the thickness around it. Also, just a total side note, but yeah, I mentioned before I removed my top strap here. The reason I still have these little tabs is because I was unsure if I wanted to reattach it, so I kept them there just in case I wanted to attach it later. I probably will just cut them all the way down because I do end up using it just like this. It does put more pressure on my face, but again, I don't mind most of the time I'm using this. It's probably for a short session, washing dishes for 45 minutes or something like that. Using a virtual environment, I'm a little bit mixed on. It still feels like exactly the same as normal, except my peripherals now show the rest of my room as opposed to black. I think I would probably prefer, if I was doing immersive mode, to be using the normal interface, just because it does block out all that extra light. I think I could see if you're maybe doing a shorter session, you don't want to swap it out, that'd be totally fine. And if you ever think about using like the Meta Horizon lenses or something, like once we get to the point where we have glasses, it's likely that we will probably be doing fully immersive situations like this, even using glasses. So it would be worth testing out, I think, on your own if you do end up doing a more open headset. See what it's like to test a fully immersive environment. But I think for my preferences, I will probably be sticking with some sort of way to cover it up, just to compensate for all of the light seepage. And honestly, those are my key takeaways. I think it is a great facial interface. It is probably the one I will be using for the foreseeable future. I would definitely buy this again. I would also probably 3D print a version and just save myself a little bit of money because it is just a facial interface. Honestly, if you wanted to, you could take a Dremel and cut out the default one and have a similar experience. Though structurally they are a little bit different. They clamp on in the same way, but this one's adjustable, that one is not. That's mostly everything as it relates to this facial interface. I'll talk more about VR in the future. I do have another video where I mentioned I was controlling my computer using a microphone and another joystick, similar to this, but slightly different. So if you are interested, that video is also available as well. And I actually have used it using a virtual display inside of the Quest. It's a little confusing, but it's fun, and I'll make another video about that later.